Hi, this is Sheila with Conscious Conversation Central, and today is Saturday, September the 7th, right? Yes, 2019. Wow, I've already said the date once today. Oh gosh, I hope I didn't say it wrong. Anyway, I'm with my gal pal policy, Lisa Flamino Rush and BZ Rieger. And although I didn't quite get what you were getting at first when you brought this title for us, BZ, I now really I see it, and I see it really well, actually. Assets of light are in place and activated. They don't even have to know if they're activated or not. We've all been activated, right? Is that what you're sort of alluding to as well?
Yeah, on many levels. So there, maybe you want to start. We'll start with the assets.
Yeah, because that's where I had my first, because an accounting, accounts payable, that sort of thing. I've done a lot of that. So when you said the word assets, my mind went straight to, money and currency. And while yes, that is considered an asset, it's not the only definition of that word. And I also am reminded that assets can be people and, hence human resources. And that's referred to a lot in the spy game. We have assets that we have deployed this way and that way and whatever. Mm-hmm. And so it can mean a lot of things. But for me, what I was feeling when I finally did grok exactly what you meant, the words of benefit came to me. Of benefit, and it could apply to anything that would make that an asset if it's of benefit.
Right. Well, and this whole conversation where this came in, it's it could be also in the widest aperture, but in a not quite so wide aperture, but a fairly non-narrow aperture. We're in the final battle here, in the unwinding and the unbinding and the rebalancing and the integrating. You can hold it in lots of different ways. And so in the strategic, as warriors of love, theater of operations, in the whole complex war games, the theater of all of this that's unfolding. The commander in energy and beingness, source, has put assets of light in different places. And those assets of light are activated. And so again, there's levels and layers to that, because one could say they've always been activated, but they didn't know it yet, or they didn't see the light go on, or they didn't feel the sparks engage, or or for all intents and purposes, they weren't activated in this realm, in this theater, in this consciousness, and now they are. And so when I was describing this to you guys, I was using the phrasing that this conversation is a good tool, a good augmentation, a good enhancement for each being to strengthen, amplify, engage their decoding abilities for the picture out there and for the picture right here within them, on the ground, in the most limited sense, and then in the totality sense. So then to give examples of the out there, people look at, and not just people in the United States, people all over the planet who are feeling into paying attention on different levels, different things that, which is, remind me to get back to this, which is why recognizing and owning, claiming, and engaging your multidimensionality is full stop so important and so helpful to really navigating and moving through these and grokking these moments to get to the other side, to get to where you want to go, to get what you've always hoped is like the land of milk and honey, or however you want to hold it, in various things.
Yeah.
So again, to look outside with the decoding, and you look at the world stage, you look at the stage with what's happening, the deep state, quote unquote, and and various gyrations of the biggest hoax or a soft coup or declassification. And of course, declassification is a far bigger topic than just Pfizer or some of these other things. And some people absolutely get that, know that, sense that, there are vaults that are the size of galaxies that hold just what's going to be declassified. And some are thinking, well, it's the file over here with the FISA and a couple other things. Okay.
Can I ask you something real quick about that, BZ? Because
Uh-huh.
I'm kind of led to, I think. When you speak on that in that particular way, you're not just referring to the 3D vaults, because it's much, it's not just planet Earth, it's not just 3D, you're speaking on D class of.
Right. Remember at the very beginning, I said, remind me to talk about the multidimensional part because that'll help with this. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we.
Yeah, it's far bigger and far more in depth, than that. So, but to just stay with that narrow aperture for a minute of that, because that's a lot of people are familiar in various levels with that and can point to that and go, see, that's not happening, or well, that was bad guy, or he was playing for the other team, or yada yada, whatever the iterations are.
Mm-hmm.
So Jeff Sessions is a one that's much maligned with that. Horowitz, is another one with the OG with Office of Inspector General, because he was an Obama appointee and yada yada yada, and he's an inside man. So yeah, you can look at all those things. You can, but the so one of the examples I gave you, which I think you both went, oh yeah, I said, there are assets of lighter in place. Think Google, think Activated, think Veritas, and Conversations, right? So that's a good linear and factual and actual description. It's also a great metaphor for everything. So it's in as everything is, with all that is being decoded, with all that it's unwinding and binding, in every system, every structure, every community, every grouping that's going on. And so when you start to see that and notice that, then you can turn that onto you to aid your decoding. And part of what I'm referencing in that is that you can then see this picture out here with more clarity, and and more nuance, be able to read the nuance and understand, oh, okay, it isn't what it seems, it's exactly what it seems. They are one, both are true, and it paints a completely different picture, because now it's not just a flat picture, it has a multidimensional aspect to it. But in addition to that, and in a really wonderful, cosmically delicious way, you can then turn that back on yourself and use that to decode you and your own fact that you are an asset and you are in place. You have been put, make no mistake about it, you have been put in place. You're an asset of light, you've been put in place, and you are activated, and you may now be matching up with the owning it, knowing it, claiming it, right?
Right.
Of that activation, and going full bore. And someone said, huh?
I'm not quite sure that you didn't pick up on me, because I'm like, okay, wait a minute. I thought I was right there with you, but I'm like, we might have to back up.
Wait a minute. You said you got it. You said this was clear. What are you doing saying, huh?
Well, yes. And then, I don't know. It's that. No, I mean, see, for me, this is a really good example of, okay, wait a minute, because I question myself about everything. I thought I got it. I thought I dropped it, but maybe I didn't, and so that's why I wanted to say that maybe that's what you were picking up on, because all at once I found myself going, well, wait a minute, hold up. So,
Well, I need a little bit more than the huh.
Okay, wait a minute. No, wait a minute.
I can't play with that. I mean, I can, but
Okay,
good.
I can play with pretty much anything. I can spin off all over the place, but
yeah, I know, but you need a little bit more to go on. Well, there's so much coming in at this moment. It's a bit swirly, but well, because part of what I thought I heard you say, and because I know we talked about you are where you're meant to be, and maybe you don't know you're activated, right? And I think that's because that there's still that question for me is, am I activated? I don't know if sometimes I don't feel very activated, so I'm not quite, so that's why I said all of a sudden I got this. I don't know what it was or why, but it's like I'm not quite sure I grokked it all the way. There's something missing for me.
You want to jump in, Lisa?
Oh, well, she makes me laugh because
Well, at least there's that.
well, yeah. And
I'm activated. What can I say? Oh, wait a minute. Sorry.
What did you just realize it right now? No, you're funny because you really are. To me, you're seamlessly connected. A great deal of the time, and I don't think that see, we've gotten really good at parceling out everything and trying to define everything, and I think it's more a state of being. It's a state of allowing, and we're sort of flitting in and out of this allowing versus just staying there. And so it feels like you're not connected, because at times you're not literally, but it's a flicker. sort of, and it's getting closer and closer together. And it's not just for you, it's happening for me too. It's just that from sitting in this chair and looking over at you, I can just see it real clearly, which has been really nice. You've been
again, activated. Oh, okay. No worries. I feel
so you're constantly activating me, and I'm activating you. And we're activating all over the place.
Well, see, so you actually, both of you did a really good, to me anyways, a good job describing part of the benefit of the in the conversation that ensued with me to doing this, because as I was talking about, you can look at something out there and use this to help you decode that. Then you can turn the same, so you may have got a little bit more, oh, okay, I see, something is not as it seems and is exactly as it seems at the same time, because it's, remember at the very beginning, I said, we got to bring your multidimensionality in this right now. Because so what Lisa was just talking about is incorporating your multidimensionality. And everybody does this in that kind of in and out way until they stop doing it because they're fully in.
Right.
So someone says, what does that mean? Okay, well, Lisa actually gave a beautiful description of it. Pointing at Sheila, she said, well, Sheila is connected. And Sheila said, well, I thought I grokked it, and now I'm not so sure. Okay. So all of Sheila, and in her multidimensionality, where she leads with feeling into it, in the playing into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then all of the energy frequencies and the components of it, the complexity of it, and all that dovetails of it is there. It's a complete picture,
mm-hmm.
which is energetic, frequency-based, light, sound, color, quantum, the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Then the organic brain will start to, as as Lisa said, we parse things out. Then that's where I'm talking about, this was in a conversation three of us had a little earlier, where, I don't do the labeling, because once I do that, but never have done that, or was trained to never do that, because that is more apt to pull me out of that multidimensionality, because it's ascribing a specific, and here which box is it in, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but as long as you hold the multidimensionality, you know what I'm saying? So once you start to pull it out, then you lose that whole picture, because you're focused on is that helping you a little bit?
I think so. And actually, I have a question for you, Lisa, if you don't mind. Now, I know you weren't privy to this conversation, BZ, but Lisa and I had a conversation with Gina and Tim earlier today. And I had trouble with the grokking of something that Tim was saying, and I think you're hitting on it here, or it's something is coming around for me in this. It is the trying to understand it portion. Okay, see, and I took issue with that because of my processing. And sometimes my processing is really seamless, and sometimes it's not. And in this case, it wasn't. So,
and another way I would say it is sometimes a component of your processing interferes with your processing.
I like that, in that, because I was about to say too that I recognized a program within it. And that's what I feel like you could be.
Could be, but it's also a component. So steps. We'll do the steps of things. So
Aha.
in a metaphoric way. So if you have a film developing process, right? And so you could do it in actual film, or you can do it in an electronic camera takes the picture. So if you take, like my camera is set to take raw files. So I can set it and set a raw file, and each raw file is quite large. So most people will do it to a JPEG, which takes up less space. They can put lots of pictures in. But now if I did that, I've actually limited the amount of information, the amount of data that can be captured, and then worked with, seen, processed, exposed, right? Made from the transparency, made into the fullness of what can be grokked.
Right. Experienced in that.
So,
Okay.
but a raw file has the totality of all the data that my naked eye may not have seen, data that in that moment, depending on the aperture, depending on the lens, depending on a number of things, my camera may not have, quote unquote, noticed, but all in the scene was captured. Now that particular file, so A136, whatever, that file has all of it. So now I can go in and I can pull from the totality of that. It's very multidimensional. I can pull from the totality of that data, and I can pull more of the sun out that's actually never gone. It's behind the cloud, but I can pull more. That's a good metaphor for this. So that's why I say a component of your process is getting in the way of your process. So your real process, your whole process, the totality of you, which is the processor, because it's this amazing organic computer, is quantum. You are a quantum computer. And then you have the organic brain, which is in the well, it's changing, but heretofore before it was the linear dualistic processing. Mm-hmm. And so that's a component of it, and that pulls off and tries to superimpose that and those rules, those algorithms on top of everything else. So in essence, what it's doing is it's JPEG, to use the metaphor I did a minute ago, it's JPEGing the raw file, right? And do you see where I'm going, Lisa? And it's beautiful. And it's now condensed all that other information out of it. So how does that look? What is that? So let's put it into, get away from the metaphor a minute and put it into this. So when we label it, that would be equating the JPEGing it, mm-hmm. right? We're putting a frame in it. We're putting a conduit to it. Mm-hmm. That is then... That's where you could have, in addition to what I'm talking about, you could have a program as well running with that, which has to do with the linguistics that go with that, with the definition type that go with that, in addition to the frame, the construct and construct of that. Is that making sense?
Yeah.
Or are we back to huh?
I'm phasing in and out of yeah and huh. So I can't, there's something going on with this. So it's very interesting. I'm just observing because I follow right up and then I'm sorry, squirrel? I don't know. I do not know. I do not get what's happening over here, and I'm not going to panic. I'm just rolling.
No, I do. So this actually,
What is it?
It's a beautiful illustration of um,
I do sense some cognitive dissonance in here of some sort. It's like, okay, this is interesting. I don't know why this didn't show up before to say. It's like, I'm with you, I'm with you, I'm with you. So interrupt. I'm with you, I'm with you. Interrupt. That's and when the interrupt comes, I'm completely not even here. It's odd. It's almost like I missed a part of the conversation. So I don't know. That's why I said I don't know what's happening here because it's very strange.
uh-huh.
That's why I was wondering if some of it might not be cognitive dissonance of a sort, but I can't grasp what I would be that cognitive dissonance over. But there's some kind of interrupt. Like, I don't even know exactly how to explain what I'm feeling.
Well, I find it very interesting that we circle round to this again today because it hasn't just been today, actually. It's been sort of an energetic that's been swirling about. So, and for you, I think you're just about there. And maybe you don't understand the words. And it's not a don't understand the words. No, that's not right. It's because sometimes the words aren't enough. Like, I don't know. But I think that there's a rising tide happening. You know what I mean? Like, and it's so it's gonna go, and it's about ready to pop. So relax, because here it comes. This is really good.
Well, that's why I said I feel
Watch
like
out.
I just need to roll over on my back and just let it flow because it's like I follow, and then there's an interrupt. So I don't, and I'm not freaking out about it because I know that as with many other things,
I can see your progression.
Well, as with many other things, I just the admitting that there's some kind of interrupt, just that noticing of that helps
So in your multidimensional camera, we'll use back to that analogy, right? Your raw file, which means it's all data. You've got all the totality of multidimensional, all that is data. And then you put, that's pretty accurate, you put the JPEG slot in. And that's that's the interrupt.
Yeah.
And it's such a good one. I can't even describe how good that is. Yeah, that one's gonna unpack itself in a little bit.
Yeah, because when you said you put the JPEG slot in, while you were looking for exactly what to say, I heard governors, and so yeah, that you're right. It is all there, and when it's time, it will. When at the time of my choosing, the big my, it will.
Right, and so that gets us to you talked about, so that's the last part of the title, right?
Right.
So you said activated. So does that mean we're activated? And I said yes, always, and yes, now realizing. So you said, well, that will happen at the right time. And this part of this, because you're saying on the one hand, you're right, I get it. Okay, it's like it's an interrupt, right? And so this is you're calling an attention to it for yourself to take that last slot out. You can make it so that the slot does not accept the JPEG because you don't need that information. You already have all of that information. You're just interjecting, slotting in that part. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. Well, yes and no. So that's better than interrupt.
Right.
Okay,
Okay.
so
So let's
wow,
play
that's
with
really
this.
good.
Want to play with this a little bit more?
Sure. You know me, I'm game.
So on the, taking again the out there for a moment, um, just some examples in how it's unfolding. Think of it too. Think of the whole, the acting AG, which was sessions, and then we have AG bar, and then some people, some people are following right along and can see ahead because they can see, right? They've got their raw file reader, let's say, out, and they are that, and they're seeing the different things. Ask yourself, um, if you'd ever wondered, does it matter? Does it help? Is it significant to know that you're multidimensional, to actually be within, engaged with, claiming, owning, knowing your multidimensionality for reading these times right this minute? And if you have or haven't, play with that. And then take that a step further. And when you listen to, there's so many beings out there doing so many great things of decoding and putting it, into different things and researching. And I mean, it's amazing. It's, it's the beauty of go forth and know source, and they're doing, they're on task doing their thing. And it's from their perspective, and it's from their perceptions, and it's from their holding of their raw files, or interjecting their JPEGs, or just their JPEGs, or interjecting a little bit of a raw file, so it works both ways. And it's been fun to watch a lot of beings who are doing different things, and I'm just going to stay with that metaphoric language for a minute. So their JPEGs may have a little bit of raw files, but their JPEG files did not. It was all linear. It was all, us and them. It was all, to start with, I'm just picking a point in time. It was all, maybe Democrats and Republicans were bad, and bad guys and good guys, or whatever. And certainly only terrestrial, because nothing else exists, right? And then now they haven't per se focused on any one thing, or consciously or actively let that cat out of the bag to fully color or be involved in or be entertained in, or hey, been brought right to the forefront in whatever it is, the modality that they're doing. But you can see that it's changed because there are less and less JPEG files that are used to process and then produce their product, whatever it is. It could be a poem, it could be a video, it could be a writing, anything, right? And you can see more and more the raw files are used, because even if they're not talking about, off planet, or that you're, in ascension, or that doesn't matter, because their language structure is going to be their language structure. But you can see the energetic has changed, and the aperture has changed, and the multidimensionality is showing, in just the little nuanced ways that they may use totally linear language, or allude to a little thing here, a little thing there. And so that's what I was saying, if you've played with that in the multidimensional, the puzzle cannot be solved, cannot be decoded, right? The cue drops cannot be followed, decoded, integrated. The cue clock, if you're using that as your metaphor, there's lots of other metaphors you could use it, without going quantum, without going multidimensional, because that's where you're going. Whether you know it or not, understand it or not, or believe it or not, doesn't matter. That's where you're going. So when you start to play with that's back to the out there, that lets you then see, okay, if the assets of light are in place, it's interesting that Sessions, you know, with his whole career and what he's done, and he had certain particular things he was a stickler for, or looking for, or known for, and different things that could be a tremendous asset for his role as an asset of light in doing those things. And one of them is the sheen, the polish of the good old boy, the Southern guy, the doing over this over here, when he, you know, as the front, as the cover story, right? While at the same time, it's tight-lipped, tight scripted, busting your ass time in the back room with all of the investigation, deals, connections, you know, but nothing gets a whiff of, because that's an asset of light that's in place, that's activated, right? And so when you start to see that, you can then, that's where you can see nothing is as it seems, because hey, you know, as the front guy, good old boy, just, you know, whatever, and everything is as it seems as you pull in your multi-dimension, as you pull in the raw file and get all the data. Another one is the same thing with, and these are just two examples, this is in every system, every structure, every sphere of different things. So Horowitz is another one. If you're going to have an asset of light and it's going to be in place and it's going to not be unmasked until the full activation, which then shines the light on and reveals things, then, and because remember, I talked about all this is setting the stage, right? It's character development, it's foreshadowing, right? It's also, you know, if you think of a murder mystery or a whodunit or something like that, you know, there's always misdirection. Well, I think it's this, you know, this is the bad guy, or this is this, or it was down here, and that may be leading you away, or look over here, or squirrel, you know, kind of thing, way over here. And so, again, think of character development and setting the stage and scripting a play. You know, you're the director and producer. You got to get your screen, your scene sets in, and costuming, and lighting, all that kind of stuff. So if you want to have a certain thing come through where many players that you're working on to unmask, to bring transparency to, both that are involved on the part that may be being brought down, and it's always and on those that where the transparency mask is being lifted, where the light's going on, where the right, the unwinding and unbinding of the story is happening for those who think they're just watching. And they're an absolutely essential, integral part to all each being is to what's going on, right? So what better way to do that than to have an example of this Horowitz, that he's appointed by Obama. And again, so this is a good, this point right here is a good one to help with that. Remember I said you take the decoder and you turn it on, each being turns it on themselves to help decode. So so in that respect, you could be the being that I'm referring to, could be one that's an Obama being. Hey, yeah, Obama, great, you know, first black president, yada, yada, all these good things. And Hillary's the woman and all right, okay. And so you have that, and you need to be character development, scripting, scene setting, right, foreshadowing. So then an optics is another way. That's not a play metaphor, but it, you know, brings in, that's a photography metaphor, or screen metaphor. Then you've got that byplay between Obama, not Trump, right? So that sets it up, because it's all unwinding and unbinding. And that means out there, but out there doesn't get unwound and unbound, because out there doesn't get out there until we put it out there. And so you know, I keep pointing out there first and say turn it around, because that's where people are looking. The secret is it's in here And then you go, oh yeah, look at that. I just put that up on the projector screen. So the unwinding and unbinding comes through. So if I'm just using this as metaphor. So if you're, the Obama thing, oh, that's great. That's Harwitz. So he's objective because he was picked by Obama, and he knows what he's talking about, and he's because Obama's a man of integrity and all these kinds of things, right? Not Trump, not Orange Man Bat, not related to Orange Man Bat. So he must be telling the truth. He must be objective. He must, right? Do you see where I'm going with this scene?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then you can do the same thing or say, well, okay, there's that rat bastard Obama and Orange Man good. So again, that's doing, well, wait a minute. If Orange Man is good and Obama is bad and Obama appointed that guy, then that guy is bad because he's not an Orange Man good team. Except we're all on the same team. And it's all part of the unwinding and unbinding. So those are just two and you can do that, you can see that in Google. You can do that in all sorts of things. And in these moments, every being is choosing, and it's all accelerated. This is there's many conversations, but we kind of wrote down two that need to come next. But with the unwinding and unbinding, and I was going to go side off for a minute, the free will choice and all that kind of stuff. Yes. And to a point, and from a linear JPEG aspect. Once we pull in the raw file and the full multidimensionality, less and less, and in a different characterization, in a different quantification, right? And we'll get to that, but I'm just going to let that energetic seed sit there and percolate for a bit. So then to flip it back around to the second part, the second step, which is really the first step, but that's okay. The second step is that helping that tool for you, for each being, to decode it. So where is that, JPEG insert coming, where there's an interrupt, where I got it, and where is the component of your mechanism to feel things, see things, sense things, know things, engage with things, unwind things, decode things, right? Where is it that it's smoothly flowing in the multidimensional and then goes back to that one component that's actually interfering with or interrupting? Notice that mechanism of interruption with that. And that's a beautiful thing as well, even though it can be upsetting or annoying or frightening or various different things depending on where you are in that moment with it. But it's almost like, and this goes back to another conversation, if you're in the river and there are no boundaries, you're just there, then it's all, and there is no edge to see of the all. Yet if you're, sorry, I hope people can follow this. Yet if you interject the JPEG in your raw file, or the boundaries, the edge of the riverbanks in your river flow, now you can see light reflected and refracted. Now you can see undulations of the flow because it's encountering, right, a contour of something. So in essence, energetically and with the energy flow and and learning. What you're learning is the container of your singularity so that you can see it mirrored in the river of your oneness, the flow of all.
Well, you know, as you use words, you know, such as decoding, you know, things. Again, this is one of those things where, for some reason, and to a degree, hold up, I think I just got something here. Well, I do know that I question myself a lot. Okay, so maybe that's part of it. But for me, decoding is the same as grokking and understanding. In order for me to decode something, that and Lisa's right, there's a parsing out for me too. And I don't know how much of that is habit and program and all of that. True enough. Getting very comfortable with being okay with not not characterizing I thought I grokked it and now I don't, as something wrong with me, as much as it is perhaps a delay in the process of, because, well, part of it too, I think, is that maybe to some degree, when I think I have a thing and then I hear something from someone else and it throws another thing in the thing, then maybe I start questioning myself. There might be a little bit of that as well thrown in there. Did I really grok it? Do I understand what they're speaking on? Or is that an intellectual exercise? Because, you know, there's a lot of that. I've practiced a lot of that, so.
Okay, I want to play it just for a minute. This is, it is what it is. So, can you see that?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
if that's a code,
Uh-huh.
and you're decoding it, are you decoding it or are you grokking it? Or do you decode it and then you grok it?
Yes.
Did that help?
Internet. That's what I said. I mean,
so
it's an interesting.
The yes didn't come fully out, but the yes was there multidimensionally, and you pulled it in enough, and then you inserted the JPEG.
Interesting. Okay, well, I'm not going to go into what's going on in here now. It's like, hey, why am I doing that? Stop doing that. And I don't want to go there. So,
Lisa, you had something floating right there. I don't know if you wanted to share it, but I was curious. I could only see part of it. What was that?
Oh, no. Well, I was just thinking about how the last couple of weeks, for me here, it's just been about floating on your back. Just turn around and float. Like, don't. Because I don't even know how to describe it either. What exactly that is. And I've watched other people try to describe it, this energetic that we're all speaking on. And I've noticed Sheila in particular, you know, I feel her, I want to say react versus respond, because that's what I'm witnessing, but I cannot help her decode it at this moment. Because I can for myself, meaning I can see it, and then I'm having trouble putting it into words so that she may see it. And so is Tim. and so, and now again it's circling around yet again. But I think what it is really is, and I think we're all experiencing this to some degree. And I know why you're saying cognitive dissonance. Maybe blind spot is a better way. It's just a blind spot. I don't know, but again, I keep just that whole floating. I just feel myself floating in water, and how there's a certain surrender that has to happen. There's just, because if you're tense and you don't trust the water, or you don't trust yourself, you won't surrender fully and you won't be able to float. So that's a thing too. So there's this thing that you have to do to allow. It's allowing, like, okay, I have to tell myself it's okay that my ears are submerged in the water, because my body doesn't like that sensation at all. And I wanted to panic and resist, and I was trying to keep my ears from submerging, and I couldn't fully float properly in that manner. And so it wasn't until I could allow the water into my ears and be okay with that, that I was able to actually master the concept of floating and surrendering it to it. So I don't know if I'm making any sense anymore, but I think that there's something about allowing all that is. And so you have to let down any barriers or definitions or slots or whatever. You don't sort it out as the mail comes in. You just observe, or I don't know if I'm making sense.
Well, yeah. For me, I would just say that back to you, in that multidimensionality is the water that you're floating in.
Okay.
And when you raise your head because you don't want your ears under, you are going more linear again. You're going to a labeling or a slotting or a parsing out, which means you can't be fully immersed in all of it. So when you're immersed in all of it, you know it, you feel it, you grok it, even though you may not be able to, from the linear frame, articulate with specificity on that, right?
Right.
One, because you don't have the same language, right?
Yes.
Uh,
And that's a big part of it.
right. And in that allowing, in that surrender, in that not being frustrated or fretful or fearful, or however you know what's coming up for you,
Mm-hmm.
you engage your capacity to do both, because as you immerse yourself in the multidimensionality, immersing that is not shunning or shunting off or extricating from the physical,
Right.
from the linear. It's not. We're not running from the linear to get to the multidimensionality. It is a component of it. So when we see that on all levels that you see, and you're swimming in your multidimensionality, then the linear, the languaging, to label something, to give it a construct around it, and see that those could be steps, they could be components that fit together, right, that build a picture or a structure that we see from a linear aspect, a languaging linear aspect, and a tangible, physical, touchable linear aspect. And we see it in its full multidimensionality, because nothing is truly just linear.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No,
And so if we look at it as not a common phrase with a whole host of a number of beings, I can't wait to get to 5D, and and it's a sense of, this sucks and that's great, so I'm running from this which I don't like, and I'm running away from this going to that.
Right.
Except you can't go to that in a running away from, because it's a total embodiment of that which is a component of your multidimensionality. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, the picture, and every being is different, and their activation, right? They've always been activated, yes,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't feel activated yet, if that's the case for them, yes, and they just get activated, yes. It's all of those things depending on where they are, and some can be activated in a couple of things here and not at all over here. And again, those are components of all of their multidimensionality. And so this, in essence, this conversation is a tool, because the propensity often is to start out there. That's the last step, but that's okay. Start out there. It's, the thing that's catching, squirrel, DC squirrel. So that you can say, oh, the metaphor of the analogy of Horowitz or this or Google or Veritas or, all that. Got it. Okay. So is there something in my life I can see that? Is there something in one of my bodies I can notice that? Is it,
Mm-hmm.
and in this moment, one of the pictures that Sheila is presenting for herself is raw file JPEG. Got it, got it, got it. Got it, got it. Right? So multidimensional totality flowing, because you're seeing, sensing, knowing, being, all of it. Got to put a word to it. Got to put a definition to it. Got to put a label to it, right? Which instead of floating, you're going up, sink, right? Those are all different metaphors, but they're trying to help you get a tangible feeling to it. So as you can widen the aperture and orchestrate how you're doing it. So deconstruct, decode the and it isn't about the whys. It's just maybe is there a feeling or a sense? Is there a trigger? Is there something that's a bridge too far right this moment for that? So that's why it had this picture. So if this is a code,
Mm-hmm.
you decode it. So first you play with, okay, well, maybe that's not just lines and dashes. Maybe there's symmetry to that. So my brain may play with that. My brain, have I seen that? Could I look it up? Could I research it from the linear thing? I could feel it. I could tune into it. I could ask from a multidimensional level, right? And so all of that is part of the decoding. And then you may do it on different levels. Because you had said part of what made me think that is, decoding, I hold, paraphrasing, you were talking, I hold decoding is the same as grokking. But there are, to go to the steps, there are kind of aspects, component, and steps, right, to the decoding. And then, so you could be looking at this as metaphor. You can look at this and go, what the? I don't get that. And then you see it. You see it. oh my God, it's right. Like, how can you not see that? It's so obvious.
Mhm.
That's grokking it. You had to decode it to grok it. You've done all of it. And all of your components have done all. You see where I'm going with that?
No, I do, and I think sometimes that's why I said sometimes for me there has been decoding. Be anything, all right. There's been decoding to maybe to only to a degree, maybe where it needed to go. Whatever. There has been at least a portion, the beginning of decoding. And so then there's been maybe a partial rocking or something where I thought I got it right, because as I in noticing and doing my own work and noticing what I notice about myself in these kinds of things, conversations, questions, things like that for myself. Mm-hmm. I have had instances present for me where I thought I actually really grokked a thing. I could then see the difference between an intellectual exercise and an actual grokking of a thing. So now, since I saw that, I think that's where that JPEG sometimes comes into place. Because if I had the propensity to do it once, I question myself, or most specifically when what I have perceived as my process comes under question or is stated by someone else to be perhaps not the right way to go about it. What I really now need to understand for myself is that being that is stating that is in relation to their own process. I need to let go of that's what I'm seeing in this moment of now, some of that for myself, that doubting of myself, because I still tend to do that. But it is also because of my having noticed that about myself for that other thing that I then had the actual alchemical epiphany. And again, because I've also seen this happen too, not just with me, but others around me too, where, folks think they got a thing, but did they really? Because there's some frequency there that's showing that maybe not all the way through to where even they are convinced, right? So I don't know. That's why I said I'm wondering. This is a noticing more than anything else. And there's been and there has been a shift in me, because the noticing, it is a noticing, but it's not something I'm panicking over and, I've been doing this wrong and that sort of thing. It's not like it used to be anyway, but right. It's
because noticing has no attachment at all. We just notice.
And so
noticing.
Right. And it's real easy. And again, most folks would just say, oh yeah, I get it, when they don't. And I'm not like that either. I would much rather err on the side of caution and say, I don't think I grokked that all the way through, because it could be, again, because this is me questioning me sometimes.
Well, that's
why I know that.
That's why I said before that a component,
right,
your process. So I said a component of your process is, and you depending in the moment and that component, right? You could use obfuscating, slightly shadowing, maybe getting in the way, or parsing out. There's lots of different ways to describe it, and each one would be valid or not in the moment for you. Everybody else has disappeared, right?
Right.
But
right.
But a component, not in the way it's done, not in getting it right, but a component of your process. We'll just go with is getting in the way with, just for a placeholder, of right. your process.
Mm-hmm.
So one way to put a pictorial around that is a component of your process generated from in the t-shirt is getting in the way of your process in the totality of you. Not good, not bad, just is.
Right. No, you're exactly correct. And I think I saw in this conversation where part of it is, a big part of it for me still goes back to trusting of self and yeah.
And I definitely see it more off camera where because I've been doing some fun out there stuff, and I've been sharing a lot of it with you too. Where I'll be sharing, and then we'll be talking, you know, all at once, and you'll say, well, what just came in for me is, and when I feel this or this flash, or, you know, so it's related to you because it's a way, whatever the story is acting on each being. There's a reason that we encounter a story, right?
Right.
But also in that sharing, in that leaping forward, there is a trust in oneself, to trust oneself, to share that part, to trust that it is related not only to the story that unfolds for you, but the story that I'm sharing. Does that make sense?
Right. Yes. Yes.
And when we do that, well, it changes everything. It changes everything within the one of us that's doing that. It changes everything in the gift that we give and share with the other who is leading the story, giving the story, unfolding the story. It changes and is a gift that it gives to others who are witnessing and having their own story unfold for them from the story. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
There's other aspects to it as well, but those are two main points in that. And that goes back to the transmitting. That goes back to everyone. Everyone is a vital component and is necessary and astonishingly beautiful in their role, in their masterful weaving of all that we're doing right now. And it's not just in DC, and it's not just in a linear base. It's quantum, and it's not just on this blue planet. It's not just with the human beings. It is with all. Everything is changing.
Yep.
And we're each a component, a masterful, necessary, integral component in that. That's kind of a segue to the next conversation where it's all being kicked up quantum size notches and levels and playing fields and leagues, you know, to use some linear metaphors, you know, and we've jumped over the big leagues, you know, and
That in a single bound, baby.
yeah, and that's a whole other knowing and realization to step into, because we will see it tangibly, touchably, physically out there. We're already seeing it. We just may not know how to characterize it, but we're seeing it, we're feeling it, we're sensing it, getting buffed right in the head with it.
Yeah.
And so that's why I say this is kind of a tool that will help us with that.
Wow.
What a great thing.
As often happens with our conversations, this is not where I thought this one was going. Certainly not when we started it.
Not the accountant's version of where you thought it would go.
Not
You just weren't playing with a big enough, wide enough scoped abacus. That's all, you know.
I guess, right? Wow. Well, do either of you have anything you'd like to add to this conversation?
Just thank you for showing up and sharing this great conversation with me today. This was an awesome day.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Everything is so cosmically delicious right now. If you know the perceived yay and nay and yick and yahoo, it's you know, we just be in it, be of it.
Yeah. Well, and if you're anything like me and you have a little bit of that interrupt, don't forget about it. I like Lisa's metaphor about rolling over and floating, because I have been tested in that arena as of late, and I would say that the moment I had tangible proof. Now I'm telling you, I had tangible experiential proof. I could put my finger. As a matter of fact, the moment I rolled over on my back, my computer got fixed.
I mean, like the moment.
The moment.
Really delicious.
And not only that, but then a very, very, very good friend of mine actually had already arranged for me to have a desktop. So I'm almost back to full status quo.
Thing. I think a lot of us, and I know I had the huge habit of this, so I'm hypersensitive to it right now, but the catastrophizing and the awfulizing was really my forte. And it was quite unfortunate for me. So I don't play with that anymore.
Good thing, because you're going to get catastrophizing and awfulizing with bells on and rockets red glare and shot in the ass and all sorts of things instantaneously.
Well, I have to say, because this, and this is really, I'm really glad that I actually went there right before we ended this conversation, because I think it's a really good point to that. In that I didn't so much catastrophize, but see, part of my process is questioning myself about everything. And so immediately, I was looking for instead of allowing all the data to just come in, okay, rolling over on and floating, and just kind of hanging out, let stuff shake out, float out, and flow in, right? No, because, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? No conscious conversation central. I can't do that. And it was a bit of the catastrophizing, and I have to do something. I have to make this happen. I nobody's going to hand it to me, so I got to figure out, what did I do wrong? There was a little bit of thing there. And so
you were
Lisa really was helping me figure out that, well, wait a minute, you're approaching this from a frequency that's all wrong. And so, yeah, this whole rolling over on your back thing and just hanging out and waiting a second or two or five or, even a couple of weeks now is highly recommended. And I know that from somebody who's a bit of a codependency control freak. That's a toughie. And so that was that's another thing. I thought I got it. Okay. Apparently I get things in stages. So.
You do. Yeah. But I look at it this way. If I handle it better this time than I did last time, I'm really proud of myself because I'm moving in the right direction.
No, exactly correct. And so
It's not one and done.
That's right.
that's right. It's not one and done. So and this is a bonus for me. And so not only did I handle all of that great, but I didn't even beat up on myself one time for not getting it. Now that is way progress for moi.
That feels good.
Yeah, it did. So, as usual, thank you, ladies, so much for all that you do for me personally. Yeah, helping me sort out all of this. I'm so grateful. This is no small task. Trust and believe. So we will definitely have all the usual stuff and all the usual places for everyone to get in touch with either BZ or Lisa if you so choose. If you have any questions or you'd like to come participate in a conversation yourself or for any reason, don't hesitate to reach out to any one of us if you'd like. I mean, all the information is there. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. There'll be links in the corners, whether you're viewing this on Conscious Conversation Central or the Quantum Playground over on BZ's channel. And till next time.
Much love.